You're just using the Zoom one.
Yeah, I'm not doing OBS, and I should, because they'll actually expand what we're going to do, but it just hadn't taken the time to do it, so it's on me. I'm super lazy about it. So,
So
yep,
good.
that's me. So now we're broadcasting. We're live. We're going down. We're going to make this happen. So it's no more delay on my part, which is usually the case every single time. So if you are tuning in on YouTube as well as on Zoom, we are currently doing remotely interesting, and I'm going to do my hand things. We're getting to 20. So it's remotely interesting number 5, 10, 15, 18. And this time we're going to be talking about sprinting urban development with our guest, Paris Noble. Now, if you're not familiar with Paris, let me tell you all about him in a brief way before he introduces himself. He's from the Hungary area. He's a business developer and strategist. He's the co-founder of Elevate Strategy and Design, KFT. He's been doing that for a little over a year. Well, just actually about 7-8 months, but close to a year. You're also the organizer of an ideathon, Gyor, Gyor. It's a first idea competition. And then you've done a number of different organization and founding of companies in the past. So I think that's accurate, Paris. Did I capture everything, or did I leave anything out?
Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And the reason why we're having you on the show today is you just finished a 5-week urban development design thinking sprint for the city of, and how do you pronounce that? Is it Gyor? Do you pronounce it that way?
It's pronounced Gyor. It's
Gyor.
like, yeah, it's super hard for English speakers to pronounce it. It's like, yeah, it's a sound, yeah.
If I have a really bad accent, I can do it. The city of Gyor.
That's really good.
Well, that's the last time I'll probably do it well. But the reason why it was interesting is because you did, you interviewed over 30 experts. You aligned city organizations and officials and experts on a whole bunch of different things related to the project. You did a representative survey. You did a 150-page book and study research done by the team. So there's so much to kind of unpack here. So I think what I'd like to start off with is like having everyone understand who you are, what you're all about beyond my introduction, and then you can bridge right into how you got involved with this urban development project. And by the way, not to discount anything, but Sandy Lam today decided that she did not want to join us on video. She's she's just not feeling herself today, so she's basically just not in the right mood for video. Actually, her camera doesn't work, so it's not nothing to do with that. I'm just joking with her, but she is still here. It's not just me in Paris. She's just basically observing us and making sure that we don't screw up. So with all of that, Paris, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, my name is Paris. I've been living in Hungary for the past many years. I'm half British, by the way, on my dad's side. And we just founded our own graphic design studio a few months ago. It started out as a skateboard brand, basically, where we were manufacturing skateboards. And everybody's like, oh my God, these boards are amazing, and they really want them, but they invited us to Design Week and stuff like that. And eventually we sold about 5 boards in like over a year. And what we realized, we were getting more graphic design orders. So we transferred the whole thing into a graphic design company. And we started doing design thinking workshops eventually, and like strategy workshops. So that's how we ended up doing these urban development projects, like totally out of the blue. All these opportunities came, and we just started doing them.
Okay. So what led you to do this particular project? What was kind of the build up for it?
So I've been part of a civil organization in Gyor, and it's like there's like a bunch of architects and designers in this organization. Oh, hello. And we've been doing some small stuff, like a few events, a few urban development projects, like something like really small and low budget things. And this organization is actually the organizer of the Design Week in Gyor, and we've been doing that for a few years now. And eventually, the city heard about our stuff, what we're doing, Design Week, these small projects, whatever, and we eventually got in to the mayor's office to chat about what kind of possibilities do we have. And it turned out that what's really missing from the city is an identity, basically. What's like a long-term vision. It's like, each city, you can really tell people, you know, the roots, you know, what it means to live there. You know, it has its own like flavor of identity. And in Gyor, you don't really know what's why it's different, why it's unique. And this has really been missing for the past years. So eventually, the project was to find an identity, a city vision, plus to redesign this town center of Gyor. And yeah, and we said we can do this in like 5 weeks, which was a bit crazy. But yeah, you know, I mean, it would have been better to have 7.
Do you think that by pitching 5 weeks was the one of the influencing factors for getting the deal with them, or was it something that was tied to their internal timelines?
I think a bit of both. There's a new mayor in the city, by the way. He's been working for the past 3-4 months probably, and he's like, he likes to work super fast, and he really understood that if you want to get things done, you have to work fast, and so we said, yeah, like 5 weeks. But yeah, it was hardcore. So I think that's why that was one of the main factors, plus all the other projects, the small previous projects, already showed that we can do stuff.
Okay. So you're signed on to do this, and you have 5 weeks to do it. What was kind of your approach in the very beginning? Because my understanding is that you kind of did design sprints or design thinking around this part. So what was the plan of attack for like the first couple of weeks?
Whoa, well, first it was like pretty much unbelievable. So we got the job because I thought we're not gonna get it because it's such a new thing to do, to have an approach like this, especially in Hungary, especially in rural Hungary. Just for anyone listening, Gyor is about an hour's drive from Vienna and an hour's drive from Budapest. So it's not even the capital. So it was pretty crazy landing the whole job. It's like, oh my God, okay, so where shall we start? And they said like,
hang on, Paris, don't mean to interrupt, but did they tell you why they chose you over other options? What was the reason why they decided to go with you?
They heard that our group of this civil organization has done a few cool things, and that was like enough reference. I mean, we did a few presentations and stuff like that, and we told them about our plans on how to get design thinking and design sprints involved into a whole urban development project, because we really think that the future has to be really design driven in all ways, like design in business, design in culture, design in everything basically. So they like that idea, and yeah, we got started. So they said it would be really cool. I think it was a Wednesday. It would be really cool to get started on like a Monday or a Tuesday. I was like, okay, long weekend. Start planning. You know, we told them we want to work with a diverse group of people. You know, we had to get all the people together. So it was quite crazy sending out all the invitations on short notice. So we're doing a whole series of workshops and stuff like that, and where to get started. So yeah, it was hard. It was crazy, to be honest.
And how big was your team? How many people on your side of the fence were getting involved with this?
Yeah, so there's in the organization there's about 7 people, and I think about 5 of us were actively working, 6 of us on the whole project. So what we did was we had small workshops, small team workshops, and all our team members were participating in one team to gather all the insights from all the new people who were participating, all the experts. And after the workshops were done, they were doing background work, and we were doing some inner workshops, and just trying to turn out as much content as we can, and design and insights and everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so that it sounded like there was a multi-tiered effort in different areas to kind of cover everything you wanted to do in the final delivery. So did the city officials kind of explain to you what kind of outcomes they wanted from this entire endeavor, like what they wanted on the table at the end of 5 weeks?
Yeah, it was a pretty brief, to be honest. What they wanted was a brand new urban development concept for town center, and meaning how to reuse buildings, how to rebuild streets, how to build new infrastructure, how to build new services, like just a concept kind of thing, and also a type of long-term vision that everything can be built upon. So it was like these 2 things in one, because they said there's not enough time to do them separately. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's how we got started. It was a good idea though, because we first started working on a long-term vision, on what do the people think, what do the experts think, on how this town, this city should be developed basically in the next 50 years. What our roots? What heritage do we have to build upon? And then once the vision was like, once we found a vision that made sense, that was validated as well, then we can start doing concepts on and ideation on what kind of new services, buildings, infrastructure do we need? Because what we thought, if we don't define the problem well, if we don't define a good vision well, then there's no point of doing any further design work, because you're only just gonna do bad work, or work that is not gonna be good, really.
Yeah. Sandy, you want to ask him a question real fast? I got to take something off camera. So can you ask him a question real fast? No? Okay. I'll go ahead and ask real fast. So what were some of the biggest challenges when doing this particular project?
Biggest challenge, all of it. No, it was a lot of fun. I think the biggest challenge was to really, because all people who participated in the workshops, I think from out of 30 people, only one of them participated in a design thinking workshop. So like really breaking the barrier on how this works, to teach people quickly. So why is this good? Why is this not wasting time? I think that was one of the biggest challenges, and preparing for each week, and really just using all the material that we got and try to put that into actual design concepts. So that was like super hard, I think. Yeah, probably those were the biggest obstacles. Can't hear you. hmm So how did we validate our vision? Well, we had a concept, a preconception on what we thought Gyor would be a good would have a good vision, and what we did was we have a technique we use in brand strategy workshops is a brand a company obituary, um, where you basically write down how will your company look like 25 years from now.
For what?
Obituary.
Oh, sorry about that. Keep going.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we changed that, and we started like writing down a newspaper article from the future to get all the teams aligned and think what would they want to hear from the future of Gyor if they would be reading like a news article from, like, let's say Times magazine or Forbes or something like that, or Design magazine or whatever. And it's really interesting because once you think long term that way, you start thinking more on that you really want to make a cool city, you want to do something really monumental, and that's not like the boring stuff. And it turned out that most of the teams, all 5 teams, were bringing out the same things, like they want an innovative city, they want better, stronger, more stable industry and culture and events and stuff like that. And and it was really weird to see that everyone wrote the same things. So eventually what we did, okay, is like, this is still just a small part of teams. So we did a big survey. Over about 1,200 people completed the whole survey. There were like 51 questions.
How did you reach
so it
them?
was like, people just wanted to do the survey. It was crazy. We got so many messages like, hey, thanks, and this was really cool. And the town helped, and all the government council officials helped, all the organizations, they were sharing the survey. So we got about 2,500 people who completed the survey, but not fully altogether. So about 2,500 people like did something with the survey in over about 4 days. So it was pretty fast, but 1,200 people finished the whole survey. And what was really good to see that all the patterns which were emerging were validating our preconceptions on what people think about the city, what people think about what should the identity of the city be. So that was, I was a bit scared that it's going to be something totally different than what we were trying to put together, but there were still some cool surprises though, which we weren't expecting at all.
How many people actually live in the city? Do you know?
Yeah, there's about 130,000 people living here. It's like the 5th biggest city in Hungary. And it's probably one of the main industrial cities in Hungary.
And how do you work with all this data? Because that's a lot of data that you have to deal with, right?
I was going to say that's a lot of survey.
Yeah.
It especially because we had these unique questions as well, so we had to like read through all the questions, all the answers, and you know, it was easy with all the data visualization, but the unique answers, that was a killer. We have a really cool data scientist though who worked with us on this project, and I think he was using like some like Power BI. I don't know. I don't know these tools, but it took about 3-4 days to just go through all the results. which was crazy. And then see the results and then put it up against our concepts and the design concepts, and does it validate it? Is this really a problem that we've touched on? And in some parts yes, in some parts it was no, but mostly the designers were right. So that was cool.
What would you imagine could have happened if it was not validated?
Oh, well, you know, no other opportunity, no other choice than to redo, just do rewrite the concept, because there's no point of delivering something fake, which is not validated at all. I mean, because then we're back at square one. It doesn't really matter if what process we're using, and there's so many processes that have been used before and it's not been working. And the whole point here was to do something that will probably work. And yeah, so we were scared because it was when we were doing the results, it was like week 2, just after week 2. So we had about 2.5 weeks left for finishing the whole concept. Plus, we signed up to write a whole study about it. So that was also really crazy. So we actually came up with a publication of this, which is 150 pages in 5 weeks. So yeah,
oh, that has also been done in 5 weeks.
Stressful days.
It's like there was a bonfire going in the middle of the project, and Paris was just going, add it to the fire. Just go ahead. Just put that big pile of like burning that kindle and just throw it right on top, and we'll just keep on burning it. So So
what was really interesting? Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go for it.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
So what was really interesting was how, like, at every single design sprint or design workshop, they tell you to trust the process. And when you're doing something on a magnitude of this, you're like constantly questioning yourself that, will this work? This is not even a joke. This is not just a 7 people web app or whatever. This is like downtown Gyor with 130,000 stakeholders, and yeah, it works. I mean, we were blown away by how effective this process is, and how well you can combine design thinking and design sprint elements with actual architectural design work, and how efficient it's like we were blown away ourselves how well it worked. So yeah, trust the process.
What was it like that final week?
Well, it was, if the first 4 weeks were hell, this was extra hell. But yeah, final week was hell plus. Yeah, it was like 80-hour work weeks. It was pretty crazy, but yeah, we did it. It was fun. It was really cool, especially going into ideation phase. That was like, it's quite fun just doing that, and that was a really fun part, because our designer team, they were constantly working in the background, doing their own designer concepts, which were always constantly matched against the workshop concepts, and there were some things that were the same. Sorry, 1 second. I just need to let my wife in.
Okay. If I can take time out to figure out what my kid's doing,
yeah,
perfectly fine.
Yes. So it was really fun to see how much insights designers can, how much these insights can help the work of really hardcore professional designers. So when you get all these cool data, all these cool ideas, and how you can really transform that into something unique and something really cool, that was like amazing. And they were really blown away how much input they got out of the workshops.
So I have to ask, this is all done virtually, correct? Like this entire thing was done in a virtual environment?
No, part of it, the first parts, the internal sprints were done virtually. The internal workshops were done virtually. We got the job when there was still no people on the streets. It was like hardcore quarantine work, and then we did parts of it in physical workshops as well. But all the collaboration and the work itself was mainly done remotely in the background, which was it was a mixed blended work. But what actually happened today, I just got a messenger message this morning. So hey, can you come downtown and talk? And there's it looks like there'll be now a huge project, phase 2, and that's going to be I can't tell much about the project at the moment, but it's going to be like gigantic, and it's going to be like a 4 months long project, and it's going to be right in the midst of the second wave COVID. So we've already told them, so we're totally prepared doing the whole thing online, so it's not going to be a problem. Especially, the mastery program is going to be really cool, I've heard, to learn design sprint facilitation online.
Let's hope so. Yeah, we'll start working on that today. So it's
yeah. So it was the whole project itself was blended. Yeah.
Because I can imagine that if you'd spent 80 hours a day for a week on something that was a 5-week project to kind of get it out the door and ready, that this next one's like, you did a splendid job. Now we're talking 10 weeks, so you can do 3 weeks of 80-hour weeks.
No. We said we depending on the project, we'd like to have a bit of a longer further deadline.
I think you ought to do. You ought to do something like fun, like at the beginning of your marathon 3 or 4 week engagement. Every day, you draw a sketch of what you feel like, so that, or something where it's an artifact, so that you can see the evolution of how your brain works, so that you just start drawing letters by that last week, or numbers, or a smiley face, or stick figures. It really comes down to that. It's like,
yeah.
But
the worst part. Yeah.
Huh.
I was just gonna say, like, I have seen people doing that, but with Lego. So they add a little bit every day on it to build. In the end, they get like a actual Lego building or something.
I think at the end of mine, I would just have the green platform. I would just hand in the green platform and say, "Here you go. This is the extent of my creativity. This is how far it goes. Just there." And I would in Sharpie marker, I would write on the back of the green. I would go, like, write the date and say, "Yeah, I'm happy and tired," and then just give it there. They can frame it.
Here the hardest part was with all these work hours. So you went to sleep, and you were only sleeping like maybe 6-7 hours, but you've been dreaming with the whole project. So what I really hated was like, oh my god, I planned these amazing workshops in my sleep, and when I woke up, I forgot how to do the workshop. So eventually I woke up just being more tired, and even not even remembering the stuff. It was pretty crazy, and it's really easy to get carried away. So you're like, oh my god, there's a bit more insights, there's a bit more data, there's a bit, that's a really cool idea. And then you have to get to the point when you're just like really going into convergence and just really focusing down and really staying focused on what the whole topic is, what the whole sprint question is. So yeah, it's hard in 5 weeks like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I understand,
go ahead.
So if I understand correctly, you said that like they actually at the beginning they didn't really understand, like they didn't even know what design thinking and design sprints was, right?
Yeah.
How did you actually explain that to them?
Well, I think one of the key ways to explain it is to not talk about design thinking. I think that really helps.
Yep.
I think we told them like twice in the beginning. So what design thinking is, just mention the word. But it's like what you're saying. So like easy ways like, hey, we're just doing some research to define a good problem. Then we start doing some ideas, and eventually eating, testing the pudding, or how's that saying in English? Trying the, testing out basically the ideas. There's a Hungarian saying, so I don't know if it's the same in English. So tasting the pudding is the real test of. You don't have that in English? Okay, that's awkward then. So basically, you only know if your pudding tastes good if you taste it eventually, and there's a saying to that. So just talking in metaphors and stuff like that to the people, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And by the end of the day, they realized that they were doing some hardcore work. And they're like, hey, yeah, this was the first phase. This was the divergence phase, and just always a feedback session. Yeah, but it's hard. It's hard in the beginning.
You don't have to throw the concepts their way. You just basically have to kind of use common language when the very beginning around what you're intending to do.
Yeah.
And then when they go through it afterwards, they go, oh, what was that called? And then you can go, oh, well, this is called the divergent phase. This is called the
exactly.
Then they'll say, then it's almost sometimes I get the feedback later. It's like, oh, I feel smart now. Like they actually did something they didn't realize that they had done, but they needed to walk through it. Like, you do it. If you're a big fan of American football, that you go out for a pass and they tell you to, okay, run straight, run left, and then go straight again. And they throw you the ball and it works to perfection. They go, oh, cool. What was that? You go, well, it's a left fade out straight shot. But if you started out with that definition, you would have lost people right then and there.
Yeah. Especially like people came, I was like, oh, I've been to so many workshops, it's workshops don't work. They're like, they're like team building activities, and they thought it was like some presentation that's going to happen, which they have to listen through, and eventually everyone's like, oh my god, this was amazing. And like, what, one of the best parts was that, like, what's really super valuable, and I've already heard this from other people, but it's like first-hand experience, is like how valuable it is to get the whole team aligned. That's like, that's crazy. Especially when there's like institute leaders or organization leaders who are actually competing organizations, and some of them are not even well, they don't really like each other, maybe, to put it nice way, and eventually by the end of the session they're like friends, and they understand like, hey, we're just really trying to accomplish the same things. Both organizations is just trying to make a better city, and these were like really super valuable.
It's weird how common goals work like that, especially in a design sprint process. You can get two people that are politically different in terms of like not only just at work but just like philosophically, And if you kind of concentrate on just basically the problem at hand so that they both feel like they're contributing, then it's no longer where the other person is at odds with the other. It's just, okay, now that's what's in front of us that we're collectively trying to concentrate on. And it's like when you see the perspective rather than you interpret it through third parties or through like something else, it's a different impression where you either invalidate or invalidate your assumptions about someone or how they approach the work.
Yeah, and totally, and you know, the other thing I've learned personally is how much presumptions I have myself about people, about projects, about institutions. And when you're working towards a common goal, you're like, oh my God, it's you know, everybody's just trying to do their job really well, and you don't see that unless you're like in like a hardcore, super structured workshop scenario like that.
You gain a greater appreciation for different points of view. It's almost when people bring their skills and their best abilities to the fore, you start to like appreciate what they can actually do, even if they think that it's just something that they just do naturally and they don't, you know, that's like nothing. Whereas like, and that's what people I work with on the GVDS, that's people I work with like as clients, even the dash that we did this week. I mean, I highly value like some of the people that, well, all of them, but in particular, the ones that see process differently than I do. And when we talk through it, it's like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. But I never, ever would have gotten to that point. So I imagine it was probably the same with your internal team that worked on this project, that you all kind of relied on each other to bring a certain perspective into things. Like I imagine that you were probably around the business and strategy side with a little bit of design. Then you had other people that were very much about the physical print, like the actual book that you produced, and some of the ability to communicate and organize. So everyone had a particular role on the team, correct?
Yeah. And what I another obstacle just to mention was like internal project management was pretty crazy over the 5 weeks. So it's not only you're just doing the workshops and preparing for those, and you're just doing the case study and doing all the research and the concept. You have to like really focus on project management as well. So like, because just to get the whole internal team constantly aligned, and that's that you think that's like, because we know each other for years, you think that's like it goes natural, but it doesn't. And that's something I think we've really learned how to do is to facilitate ourselves basically.
It's not just the project work, it's actually like managing the team behind it that you're working with externally, because that's a whole different job in and of itself. You're adopting that entire like team dynamic that's there, and you never know what's going to uncover. You may have like the recent one I had is like everyone was kind of like, hey, design sprints, and there was the one skeptic who was basically in there that was just, you know, they weren't necessarily plotting, but that was how their mind worked. And they were asking critical questions about business integration and how some of this stuff was going to be adopted by agile teams, all of which I can field. But it was the nature of how it was asked where I kind of thought, okay, this is how this person is positioning themselves to either be a person of authority, or they were somebody who wanted to make a point, or whatever the rationale may be. But you're always going to have those outliers that kind of help things along. But they also challenge you in the way that you kind of approach the facilitation process.
And you know what I've really learned as well is how important a good icebreaker is. Like if you set off with a good icebreaker, with some food and a good icebreaker, then you're like set basically. And what we did was like the first time we used Dixit cards. Have you heard of the game Dixit?
I'm aware of it, but why don't you just, for their listeners, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone what that is?
Hold on, I might have some cards lying around here somewhere. Anyway, it's like it's like these small cards. It's like an association game, and there's these like really weird psychedelic cartoon drawings on each card. And what we do is we it's a really cool game, by the way, if anybody wants to buy the game. But what we do is we use these cards and we put them out, spread them out on the table, and people can gather around the table and pick a card. And we always tell them to pick a card depending on your mood this morning. How do you feel? And then we all gather in a circle and introduce yourself. One line: what do you work? What's your name? And why did you pick that particular card? And we gather around. Everybody stands around. Obviously, I start, because it's always cool to start as a facilitator, right? To start a dynamic, a certain dynamic. And and then now I get all these people like these dark terrible cards with like thunder and lightning on, and they're saying that like we have no more faith in the future. I don't know why I am here. And I was like, oh my god, where have I came? And it's really cool to see how you already start in introductions on empathy and not on titles, which is really cool. So people started in their introduction, I chose this card because I really feel shitty today, or I chose this card because I do mountaineering as a hobby and stuff like that. And that really worked in the beginning, and that I think that like helps so much. So that's like super important, I think, to kick off a session like that.
And that jump started everything for you, for the team, in the way, in a proper fashion for this time around.
Yeah, totally. So and from there, we used a few games just to teach the basics of like design thinking, or what does brainstorming actually mean, or ideation mean, and stuff like that. And eventually we shift into hardcore work without them actually noticing that they're already working. And yeah.
Long time ago, and I'll say a real quick question. So it's something that I encountered a long time ago. It was like 20 years ago when I was doing workshops. I would sometimes purposely, if I was not the person facilitating, I was the person participating, I would use a fake name. And I would literally put on a persona like I was like a disgruntled like young man that was not trying to find his way. So at the time I was running marathons. I was doing all this stuff, like running my own business. But every so often I would be asked to kind of come to these like kind of group interview sessions. So they would use a similar construct where you'd like, okay, pick a card or pick something on the wall that kind of corresponds to it. And it was a challenge for me, being from improv, to act out this person that I had. And I was always John. My name was always John or Bill. And I would forget sometimes that I was Bill or John in these sessions. But I always picked the one that was storm clouds, or was like I had a rough day, and somebody else. And for some reason that pivoted the entire emphasis towards like what I was talking about, because I had like, I was like the guy in the back with the black going, or whatever. And it was, and I did it primarily to see how the team dynamic would work and how it influenced other people's thinking. So I was experimenting at the same time I was being a troll, but it was fun stuff, because it was just, not saying that people did that with your session, but it was just something that reminded me of that. I'm reminiscing.
No. Yeah, I was thinking about that, because it's like really hard to look out for these people ruining your workshop like you in your 20 years ago. But yeah, it's hard. We had some of these, but really, yeah, it's like, I've seen that what you really have to do is try to use as many objective facts as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some people like, the best comments are when like, we've done this already, it doesn't work. We've done this so many times. We've done this same research without any outcome. It doesn't work. And then, we tell them, so this is only part of what we're doing, and we're going to take this one step further and one step further. And it's always cool to respond to these people with like some openness and objectivity, like, hey, I really understand that it didn't work before, or that you now feel you're wasting your time here, or you're now feeling thunderstorms and all that stuff, but it's perfectly fine. We're trying to turn this around. And one of the hard parts was we got a hardcore researcher from the university who's done like 5 or 6 or even more hardcore researches, surveys in the city before. And we also did a safari, walking around town and trying to take as many pictures of the city and all that stuff. And he said he's even done that. But what was really weird, though, that there was a politician with us as well. And he said he's never seen a politician out working, doing field work like that, and experiencing the same problems. So he said from now on, he believes the whole process. And that comes back to the essence of diverse teams, because if research is going on research safaris, they're doing it for themselves. No one cares about those geeks, But once you bring out a politician or a sales rep or a government official or whoever on these field trips, then it gets real, and they're gonna tell here, they're gonna tell there, they're gonna experience what people experience otherwise, and so that was really cool. Yeah.
So do you have the physical artifacts with you, like the ones that you had shown in the LinkedIn post, the ones from the
Yeah, it's not public though yet.
That's okay.
So
I'm just wondering because the photography was really good, so I just want to make sure that there was it wasn't just photoshopped. You're actually talking about a real book that you created.
No. Yeah, with some real. That's actually one of the workshops we were doing. Those were expert interviews.
When everybody wore clean clothes, like week 1 or week 2.
Show us the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, show us the end where it's like, like Apocalypse Now, things hanging from the ceiling, like people just kind of sleeping in place. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
did it come to the point where you were just kind of putting all of the snacks into like a big center pile where people would just kind of put like stuff they picked up from the store, they bring in the center and people would snack on it or grab it when they were hungry? Did it come to that, or was it just
the first workshop? We obviously bought so many things. We weren't expecting people not being hungry or that hungry.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got all these snacks and everything in the pile, which we had to divide and take home. And you had all these flip charts with you, and you had to take your half-eaten banana away and all that stuff. It was, yeah, but on the other workshops, we were just not buying that much food anymore, and it was gone real quickly. So yeah,
I used to
don't
put
buy
like,
too much food.
For the food that was left over in the physical ones, I would put like little stickers that would have like the company logo as well as my contact information on the back of them. So whenever they ate them at a later time, they would be like, oh yeah, but only if it was a good workshop. If it had a workshop that just didn't have any traction at all, I'd be like, just take the food and just be in a better mood for the weekend or something and kind of go that route.
Sneaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little. So you got phase 2 coming up. It's going to be a huge endeavor that's going to happen. Are you expanding the team out? Are you planning on doing like a larger group to kind of tackle what you're going to be doing, or is it going to be the same kind of group that's coming together from the last one?
Well, what we got told today, and we're just going to do the presentation of phase 1 next week. to see how that goes. But we've already been talking about a phase two kind of connected to this project, but it's still going to be an urban development one, and it's going to be like really huge. And what was really cool is that the city really wants us to get as many stakeholders in as possible for the project. So I think it's going to be bigger. So we're gonna probably conduct another survey. We're gonna get bigger teams and on longer periods. And my plan is to do a few design thinking workshops, and maybe towards like the end, just taper it down with hardcore sprinting. So the traditional 4 or 5 day sprints, with once when we've got enough data and enough insights, then they just get the whole design team in basically, or who we want to work with, and just like taper it down and just do sprints at the end. If that makes any sense?
Yeah, it does. You should hire a videographer to basically be somebody that kind of captures on video the entire thing. You could pick and choose what you actually choose to show. But we had an earlier conversation about the opportunities for you there in Hungary. And that could be something where it's multimedia. It's something that tells a story. It's kind of Gary V-ish in a way. But if you document literally how the process is, how you go about it, the work that's involved, it's really going to probably give a dimension of your work that a LinkedIn post cannot. And that will also give an understanding of how you approach the work and what you do. So it is like an investment. But if you are now going into a phase where the importance is greater and the work is greater, you could bank on that, saying that this is going to be one of those things that if all goes well, you can not only show the body of work, but you can also show how you approach solving problems, which would speak volumes versus like kind of trying to explain it in some other form. So just something that came to mind.
Yeah. That's why we hired a photographer as well, just to do the whole documentation process. Because a wise man once told me to be the best design sprinter, you have to do a lot of practicing and document it and post everything on social media.
That was Sandy,
constantly.
by the way. I remember her saying that.
Not sure about that, but
So I really kept your advice, Robert, and it really worked out. I mean, that was like seriously a few months ago. Just for the listeners to know, I was bombarding Robert with LinkedIn messages on like, "Whoa, this is amazing what you guys are doing with the virtual sprints. How can you learn this? How can you do this? How can you get better at this? How can you get a name or whatever?" And all you told me was just do some practice and put out everything on social media. And it really worked. I mean, we got so many messages, it was crazy. We already got some like messages from other towns that they want to do this, which is you don't even I mean, there's people from Texas calling me now.
That was Robert.
But that's the thing, is that if people understand that this is the kind of work you are capable of doing, and you communicate it in a fashion that makes sense to them, they can project, they can kind of figure out what makes sense for them. But then they just have to fill in the gaps, the blanks, like can you do international work? Like what's your cost range? How do you tend to kind of work? And they'll answer all the questions they have internally, but that's the whole point. It starts the conversation. That way, even if you are not the person to do it, like if you know that this is probably not something that you're set up or built to do, you probably have an idea of who you could basically introduce and have them kind of like, have them have a discussion that's meaningful. And that's the example I keep on seeing over and over again in my own world with the Global Virtual Design Sprint. This past one has been really interesting because since we changed to prototyping, I'm seeing projects starting to be initiated by other people that came from those sessions. And like based on the work people do, Mural's been interested in a lot of the people that came to the fore about posting their stuff, whether it's me or someone else. I'm an advocate, and I say this all the time, an advocate for Sandy. So if I know there's an opportunity or a thing that comes up where I go, who's really good at customizing mural stuff and has a system design mind and thing, and is moving in the direction of kind of going A, B, and C, then I'll kind of advocate for her or make that connection to see if anything comes out. But that's the whole point. If you,
by the way, sorry, Sandy, those the dark mode murals in the GVDS, they were really cool. It looks really nice. So thanks for those. I wanted to save them, but I forgot to copy them.
You can still have access to them. I post them actually in public. So yeah.
There's a link somewhere. I have it saved in like my bookmarks, but there's a link that Sandy made where it's like, okay, it was a video. She kind of explained it on her channel, and then she has all the links to all the murals there, so you can kind of take those and adopt them.
Yeah. Thanks.
So we're at time.
By the way,
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I just wanted to say so the Global Virtual Design Sprint was like, that's like something monumental, you know. Really, it helps so much in our process here. Part of me dropping out from GDS was this project, but the first I participated, I think, in like 4 days plus the pre-work, and that helped so much. I mean, I'm not even joking. Like, the facilitation skills you could learn already in GVDS helps so much. I don't think we could have done such a good job or such an easy takeoff with this project without GVDS. So really, thanks for that.
No, I'm really happy to hear that. That's part of the thing, is that it helps prepare people for different circumstances that are coming up, especially if we're looking at a long-term remote play with this pandemic kind of locking things down. I mean, that's where it needs to be. So if that did help you kind of move the needle a little bit forward with what you got going on your end, then I'm as happy as can be. That's the whole point.
It was, I mean, you know, even though I felt a bit bad about dropping out and kind of like, you paid for this and like you dropped out and I've never spent money that well, really. It was like, no, it was a huge return on investment already. So yeah, that was really cool. So I'm an advocate now.
Well, I'm glad. And again, you're going to have to shout out when you're looking at what you want from the event next time. It's like, you've gotten to this level. Okay, now what's the expectation for the next level? And that's going to be the real difficult thing for me, because starting out and knowing where people are from where the standpoint of either never been exposed or kind of exposed or sort of exposed, or no, they have, getting them something that really is of value to them. But you have people that are well advanced, like Sandy Lam here, someone who is like the equivalent of Bruce Lee in the virtual design sprint space, that it's going to be, unless they have a challenge, they're not going to really be engaged much. There's like now 20 or 30 people that are like this, where they've gone through the GVS several times. They know the routine. They may join because they like the experience, but their needs are going to be different. And I have to try to figure out if I'm still in the conversation, or if they're now going to deviate into something different, like program management, like some people are, or they're going to like pivot on their discipline. So now they're going to be entrepreneurs, or they're going to be into strategy, right? Strategy or brand, and they want to do more design. But part of that is not necessarily trying to hold on to them. It's like, okay, if this is where you're pivoting, how can I have you meet the right people that I'm at in my network to have meaningful conversations? Case in point is Lisa Lambert, somebody I highly admire, who partnered with someone else and is now endeavoring on a business endeavor where she's no longer really engaging much, but she's now doing her own thing with that. So when I see something pop up, I go, hey, if you're paying attention for somebody and you want to do X, Y, and Z, then that's the least I can do for her. But yeah, that's the biggest challenge, is finding out where that next logical step is. And that's the reason why doing the mastery program is like, for those people that are elite, that are at the top, have the conversation. If it's something that I can help out with, fantastic. If it's not, then how can I act as a proper bridge? Because that's why I want to do for Sandy, is like,
I'm
You want to take the chance to tell us, or tell the audience, how do you sign up for that?
Oh, for what, the mastery program?
Yeah.
You just kind of do a search for it now. The easiest way to sign up for it is to go to virtualdesignsprint.com, and at the top there's just a training link, and you just click on that, and that'll basically do all the introductions around the trust-based pricing model and the how the entire thing would work. There's also an article that was posted on LinkedIn that I can probably put up later on, but the whole concept is small teams of 2 to 5 people coming together around a topic of interest that they want to learn, and much like the GVDS, setting them up for a structure where they figure out, based on their availability, what they want to learn, work together on, work individually on, and at the end of 2 weeks, they're going to be striving to be one step further in what they want to learn, whether it's practice, like apply to practice of facilitation, or preparing their own sprint, what they need to do, and to kind of get that together. So everyone will have a different role, but finding out how to kind of bring that together in a small group so that it's very quick. They can extend it if they want, but they now have a new network similar to GVDS. They have a body of work that they can showcase in their portfolio on LinkedIn and other places, but it moves the needle a little bit forward. And then we revisit and say, okay, keep going or do a different direction. And it's this ongoing conversation that happens where you're not going after a certificate, like a digital certificate, a piece of paper that says, hey, I accomplished something, and then use that as a leverage to basically find jobs. It's the narrative of the continual work stream where it's like, I did this, now I did this, now this is the project I'm on. And through that discovery process of doing, they'll have not only a kind of a long tail of work that they've shown, but when they go to those new levels, they're going to discover what they really want to do versus what they project or think or conceptualize what they think they're doing. By doing, they're going in a better direction of where they're going. So Paris, we've talked before privately about kind of what you like to do with strategy and branding and positioning and so on. And I have all of those things in mind because if I come across somebody that's in that same ballpark, then I'm going to try to start to make those connections or figure out what makes sense to you with your schedule and their schedule. And if you both are in the same mindset of what you want to do, then I'll set the framework for how that could work. And then you guys can break it up if you want. But that's the whole goal of this, is that the mastery program is continual learning, but it's done in a way so that it's malleable, flexible, but it centers on the things that you want to concentrate on. And then you can basically declare when you think you've kind of hit that moment and you realize that where you've gotten, okay, now I'm at a point where I'm pretty proficient in it and I can walk into a room and be confident with what I'm doing in this particular aspect. That's the idea.
Yeah, and now you can add some service design and urban development to my profile because that's coming. So yeah,
I think service design is something that's done a lot in Europe, not so much in America, but with only for certain industries. But I don't think that gets enough exposure. I think that service design is one of those things where it's work, but the dividends you get from that and all the outputs that you can leverage from that, all the gaps you notice in the system and where the opportunities are, is one of those things where you can have tons of leaping points. But it really takes somebody that knows how to facilitate that very well, and possibly combine with design sprints so that you can take those jumping off points and kind of go straight into an ideation phase.
I'll give some feedback soon in a few months how things go, because I think half of this will be done online anyway and virtually, and we're really going to combine sprints with service design and just normal workshops and strategy and brand strategy, because it's really, like this urban project is just so complex. It's just nothing like doing a digital product. It's like it is really like everything added into the mix, which you have to use. And also what I really liked was you adding the prototyping. So I think we will be adding that to the mix because that's so easy and so efficient.
And that's coming around the corner too. So Alberto Savoia is kind of cracking the whip with me on that to kind of get something that's follows the narrative, but kind of introduces a little bit of design thinking at the front. But the idea is that once we kind of do with that, then people can use that and pick and choose what they kind of want to go with. Sandy, do you have anything you want to kind of add to this, or anything you want to say before you're good? Just this is it, nothing else. All right. We're just going to do nonverbal communication. Go with that. All right, Paris, it was wonderful having a conversation with you. Best of luck with phase 2. I sincerely hope that you don't go through the sleep deprivation dance that most of us do when we have a lot of things due at the end.
No, not
Okay.
anymore.
All right, good. And sincerely, I really do hope that this entire experience was a jumping off point for better and bigger things for you that really kind of like move the needle in the right direction. And as always, if some stuff that I'm doing helps, then by all means, just take it and run with it. So looking forward to seeing what you come up with.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity, and just keep up the good work because it really helped a lot. So
yeah,
thanks.
I'll keep doing it. And yeah, I'll keep doing it. I'll keep working on it. So everybody for listening on YouTube and that's been with us here on Zoom, if you're watching the recording, thank you very much for doing so. If you have any comments or questions for Paris, please make sure you put those either in the comment section on YouTube or when later on, if you want to contact us, we're all on LinkedIn. Just search for Paris Noble, Sandy Lam, or Robert Scrobe, and we'll be happy to kind of connect with you and see what you're all about. So until next time, until next Thursday for Remotely Interesting, we'll see y'all later, okay? Thank you. Thanks again, Paris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paris.
Bye.
All right. Bye.